Joining me now is a gentleman who will be in the feature fight of the main card at UFC 296 when he takes on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson for potentially all the marbles at 170 pounds. It's the undefeated Shavkat Rakhmonov. Shavkat, thank you so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. First question for you, which is this. You have 17 fights, 17 wins, 17 finishes. I know that it can't be easy to get finishes, although it seems like it's been that way for you. What is the biggest reason why more fighters don't have more finishes?
I don't know. Maybe because I have different styles. Maybe because I'm good in everywhere, in standings, in ground and pound, everywhere. That's why.
Do you believe that it's also a mentality thing, that some fighters just don't have it in their mind to do it? Like, let me ask it this way. When he goes to fight, like when Shavkat fights, do you make sure, like, you put pressure on yourself, I have to finish this fight?
Of course, mentality is one of the main parts, but the main for me is just to win the fight. But of course, I'm looking for a finish all the time.
Last question on this. Do you believe that other fighters simply are not, that they don't have it on their mind?
They don't risk. They don't give yourself like full, like me.
Okay, I want to talk about something that I find really interesting in your game. When you hit a guy and knock him down, most of the time in MMA, we see somebody follow and cover them, right? Chest to chest on the ground. But you don't do that. You hit them and then you bend over at the waist and continue to punch them. Why do you have this unique style of ground and pound?
I think that I can punch much, much heavier than they do. And for me, it's not the man to control the opponent, but to punch much heavier. That's the reason.
Is any part of it also that because they're worried about getting punched, they don't make effective grips?
Of course, when the man got punched, he loses like his mind. He cannot grip. Of course, it depends of the moment.
To what extent have you ever faced anyone who has the point karate style of Wonderboy?
Never.
Okay. So the last two guys who beat him did it wrestling. And in fact, this week, Wonderboy was asked, hey, do you think Shavkat is going to strike with you? He said, no, he's going to wrestle with me. I wonder what you make of that.
It depends how will he will act. But I think my standing game is not worse than him. And I think I can beat him standing game.
Do you watch any film on Stephen Thompson?
Yeah, watch the fights.
Okay. So is there any common thing that opponents do to beat him in the stand-up?
Mm-hmm. As I remember, nobody like won him in standing games. But of course, I mentioned that he missed sometimes he missed shots. And I've never seen him lost like by choke. Only one time I remember that Anthony Pettis won him by knockout.
Okay, fair enough. You have a background in Sambo. Why is Sambo, from an American who doesn't know much about Sambo, why is Sambo such an effective base for MMA?
I think that it depends on the man, how he uses his sport. But of course, Sambo is close to MMA because I was going to Combat Sambo, and we have everything in there, like boxing, wrestling, everything.
One kind of interesting development is that the guys who are really good in Sambo, they go to MMA and they do well right away. However, more recently, we've seen in jiu-jitsu, the leg locking game in jiu-jitsu has gotten really good. And to when we see them matched up with Sambo guys, the jiu-jitsu guys with their new leg locking game seem to have a pretty big advantage. Do you think that Sambo should put more emphasis on developing its leg locking game?
I think that jiu-jitsu is better on the ground game. Maybe that's why. And jiu-jitsu is much more popular sports in the world. And Sambo not so much developed like in the world.
In terms of training with everyone at Cliffe, what has that done for your game? In terms of how good you were when you got there and where you are now, what's been the biggest change?
Of course, I believe I became a better fighter in Cliffe. and there is a great atmosphere. We're like a family there.
What did he think of Florida? What do you think of Florida?
I think it's a great state, great weather, but these days it's a little bit cold. But we come here not to relax, like to have holidays. We work every day.
I want to know more about Kazakhstan, but I want to start by talking about Triple G. For those of us who don't know, how popular is Triple G in Kazakhstan?
I think that he's one of the best boxers in the world, and he's very popular in Kazakhstan and around the world. I think nobody beat his records, his advantages in Kazakhstan.
In terms of the sports themselves, how popular is MMA compared to boxing? Which one is in Kazakhstan? Which one is more popular?
Now MMA.
Really? MMA is more popular than boxing? Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So do you get recognized walking down the street?
Because of Shavkat.
Okay, so when do you get recognized walking down the street?
Yes, everywhere.
Is it weird? How do you feel about how your life has changed?
In my life, of course, it changed very much. But as I was before, I stayed like a simple guy. No, but sometimes, of course, I have a lot of attention in the streets. Sometimes I get a little bit nervous, weird, but I'm okay. I understand that it's a game. It's part of the game.
In terms of the history of Kazakhstan, can you explain to me why the horse is such a important animal and figure, from what I understand, in Kazakh culture?
We love and appreciate, horse. In ancient times, our people, Kazakhs, were nomads. We were doing everything on the horse, like moving, because our people, they had to move from the north to south when it was winter and back and forth, and everything we're doing by horse. That's why it's so important for us till nowadays.
So I saw a video where you and some friends were eating horse meat. I've never had it. Famously, Alistair Overeem had horse meat, and he said it was the greatest thing for his career. So those of us who've never had it, what is so great about horse meat?
For me, the horse meat is the best meat in the world because it's the tastiest and have much more vitamins in it. And every Kazakh cannot imagine his life without horse meat.
Okay. Didn't know that. That's interesting. All right, very good.
You should try.
I will. Hey, I try anything. I'll try that. In terms of Kazakhstan, you're the first guy in the UFC from there, first one to win. Who knows what, you might become the first champion. But let me ask this. What does Kazakhstan need to become a powerhouse in MMA? What does it need? What has to happen?
I think the main is to go in for MMA and not to give up, to give in MMA, because one of the main problems that in our culture, when we have family, we need to earn to feed the family, and not everyone can go in for sports professionally, because as I know, we have a lot of good fighters, young generation. But the main is to believe in Allah and to train. We have everything for it.
I read somewhere that your, I think, older brothers would sign you up to fight other kids in the neighborhood, and you would win. How old were you? Is that true? And if so, how old were you?
Yeah, it's true. I was from 6 to 12 years. It's true.
6 to 12.
Yeah.
Shavkat, are you aware that I don't know if he knows the name, but Terence Crawford, the guy who just beat Errol Spence in the big boxing fight, he had the exact same experience growing up. I wonder, is that it's kind of strange to say, but I wonder if that's the kind of formative experience that turns people into champions.
I don't think that it's good, but of course it makes you stronger, and you can go back and to show that you're afraid. I don't advise now elder brothers to make their young brothers to fight, but it was at that time. It was okay, but now it's a different time.
Yeah, I was mostly joking, or I was actually totally joking, but fair enough with the answer. Okay, very quickly, give me a prediction for the main event: Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards. Who wins?
I don't know. They both good fighters, but I think the advantage has champion. He's a champion. He's not for no reason, and we'll see who will be the next opponent.
Do you think you get a title shot if you beat Wonderboy?
I don't know. It depends what UFC says, but I think that Bilal Muhammad also deserves the title shot, and as I know, he will back up this fight. But of course, I'm ready.
Well, I can't wait to see what happens. It's a joy to get to talk to you. I got to try the horse meat. Thank you so much for your time, and I can't wait to see your fight, UFC 296. Thank you so much.
Thank you.